The prime equity clause wasn't just a bold move. It was a chess master play in a league still playing checkers. While most rookies are focused on adjusting playbooks, housing arrangements, and social media filters that don't get them fined, Shedeur Sanders walked into the NFL not just as a quarterback, but as a fully packaged brand with a business plan.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Let's be clear, the prime equity clause is genius. Absolute genius. It didn't just give Shedeur control over his image and likeness. It codified that control. It carved it into legal stone. It made sure that when the big brand deals started rolling in, and they already are, he, not the league, would be at the center of the negotiation table. No middlemen, no league licensing cuts, no team-mandated media strategy. Just full, unfiltered ownership of who he is, what he represents, and how that value gets monetized. This is where the game changes forever. Because for decades, the NFL has operated under a centralized branding machine. The shield came first. Players were expected to elevate it before they even thought about building their own platforms. Sponsorships went through the league, media exposure was carefully orchestrated, and individual players, especially rookies, were told to wait their turn. But Shedeur, he didn't wait. He architected a clause that bypassed the old gatekeepers entirely. And now, he's not just making money outside his NFL contract. He's redefining the blueprint for what player leverage looks like. Let's break down just how brilliant this is. While NFL contracts are some of the most restrictive in pro sports, often tying athletes' likenesses into group deals that funnel profits back into the league or the team, Shedeur's clause says nah. It says his name, his image, his story, and every ounce of Sanders' brand belongs solely to him. And that means something massive. It means when Nike wants Shedeur, they don't need the Browns marketing department to get involved. When EA Sports want to put his face front and center, they're not splitting revenue with a licensing partner. When Netflix or Amazon inevitably want the Shedeur docuseries, it goes through the Sanders family, not some league rep. That's not just income, it's equity. That's generational wealth being built in real time during what should have been the most powerless phase of his professional career. And now, every young athlete watching this unfold has a new question to ask their agent. Why don't I have a prime equity clause? Because Shedeur didn't just raise the bar. He smashed it, melted it down, and rebuilt it in his own image. He showed rookies that you can walk into a billion-dollar league and own your own story, even before you throw your first touchdown. And let's not forget who helped design this playbook. Coach Prime himself. Deion Sanders isn't just a Hall of Famer and swagger god. He's a master of narrative control. From his days dominating both the NFL and MLB to flipping the entire college football culture at Jackson State and then Colorado, Deion has always understood that image is influence, and influence is currency. So when Deion and Shedeur built the prime equity clause, they weren't just thinking about endorsements. They were thinking about ownership. They were thinking about freedom. They were thinking about the long game, about turning Shedeur into the CEO of his own empire while still in his rookie year. And guess what? It's working. The $50 million deal that broke headlines is just the tip. That's the part the public sees. But under the surface is a fortress of future income streams. Merch, streaming, ad revenue, partnerships, brand extensions. You're not just watching a quarterback launch his career. You're watching a brand scale in real time. So when we talk about Shedeur snubbing the Cleveland Browns, let's be real, it's not personal. It's structural. Cleveland, like many franchises, still operates in the old system. Hierarchical, conservative, team first in the branding playbook. And when it came time to figure out what to do with Shedeur, how to manage the media, when to start him, how to develop his presence, they hesitated. They stalled. They played politics. Meanwhile, Shedeur played business. He looked at the situation and realized, why fight to fit into a system that's not ready for you, when you could build your own system instead? And that's exactly what he did. He walked away from Cleveland with more leverage than when he entered, not because of anything that happened on the field, but because of everything he did off it. And now, NFL owners are watching the ripple effects hit the shoreline, and it's loud. They're watching their old model of player control crack. They're watching rookies ask new questions about autonomy. They're watching agents start to workshop their own prime-style clauses. And they're watching Shedeur pull endorsement deals that used to take years to earn before he's even thrown a regular season pass. This is disruption. But it's elegant, strategic, ruthlessly efficient. And Shedeur is not being arrogant. He's being intentional. There's a difference. He's not trying to be bigger than football. He's showing the next generation that football can be a platform, not a prison. The game doesn't have to own you. You can own the game. So now the ball's in the league's court. Do they evolve? Do they begin treating players like business partners instead of walking trademarks? Or do they double down on control and risk alienating the exact talent that drives their relevance? Whatever happens, one thing's clear. The NFL met its first player founder, and he's not asking for permission. He's not here to wait his turn. Shedeur Sanders is already at the table. He brought the chair. He brought the agenda. And he brought the brand. Now it's up to the league to decide if they want a seat next to him, or if they want to get left behind in a world they no longer understand. So let's hear it. Do you think Shedeur's playbook is the future of pro sports? Or is this a rare exception only he could pull off? Drop your take in the comments. And if you want more stories where athletes flip the power script and redraw the rules, hit subscribe. Because this isn't just a highlight reel. This is a hostile takeover in cleats. And Shedeur Sanders? He's just getting warmed up. The traditional NFL playbook, draft high, follow the team PR plan, collect your signing bonus, keep your head down, maybe get a shoe deal in a few years if you make Pro Bowl, is officially outdated. Obsolete. Shedeur shredded that script, rewrote the ending, and sold the film rights before his rookie debut. And all of it, ties back to that one clause, prime equity. We're talking about the most important 4 words in the NFL right now, and they don't even appear in the league CBA. This clause didn't just give Shedeur flexibility. It gave him full executive control. It was an exit hatch from the NFL's brand monopoly, and he used it not to walk away from the league, but to walk in differently. And that's the part that's terrifying NFL owners. Because he didn't need them to go global. He didn't need them to headline deals with Nike, EA Sports, or AT&T. He didn't need to start a game, let alone win one, before his jersey was moving millions. He monetized potential, and he did it on his terms. And what's the NFL supposed to do about that? Fine him for being too effective? You think Jerry Jones isn't calling his legal team to ask how they stop this from becoming standard contract language? You think owners aren't sweating at the thought of their rookies walking into meetings saying, "I want what Shedeur has"? The league has long relied on the idea that time equals power, that rookies earn their voice, their spotlight, their leverage after they've proven themselves on the field. But Shedeur proved that in this digital age, relevance is no longer tied to performance. It's tied to platform. And that platform, he built it during college, leveraged it into millions before the combine. And now he's scaling it into something that might outlast his entire playing career. Because Shedeur Sanders isn't building for now. He's building for legacy. Not just stats in the record books, but trademarks, and ownership stakes in companies that will still be cash flowing long after the shoulder pads come off. Let's not forget, he didn't have to build any of this. He could have played the game like everyone else. Signed the same rookie contract. Waited his turn behind a veteran QB. Smiled politely in the pressers. Let the team handle his branding. But instead, he chose something much riskier, agency. He risked being misunderstood, mocked, second-guessed. He risked criticism from fans, resentment from insiders, and doubt from traditionalists who still think business and football should stay in separate locker rooms. And what did he get for taking that risk? A $50 million deal before his first NFL snap. $15 million in jersey sales before even settling on a jersey number. A $250 million Nike partnership that doesn't just slap his name on a cleat. It puts him in the boardroom. And Cleveland? Let's not dance around it. They got left in the dust. They had front row access to the most revolutionary rookie since Michael Vick in terms of cultural capital, and they passed. Why? Because Shedeur didn't play by their rules. He didn't follow the wait your turn script, and they weren't ready to pivot. And now, they're watching him launch a business empire from the outside. No piece of the pie. No brand halo effect. Just headlines that make it clear. You don't sideline the future and expect to stay relevant. You invest in it. But Shedeur's not bitter. That's the power move here. He's not ranting, not throwing shade, not calling out Cleveland. He doesn't have to. Success speaks louder. And that silence from Brown's execs? That's not dignity. That's regret. Because now they see it. They had a shot to be part of something bigger than a playoff push. They had a shot to align with a player who isn't just trending, he's transcending. But they hesitated. And in the time it took them to decide between quarterback packages, Shedeur had already inked a lifetime endorsement deal and signed production rights for a streaming docuseries. They missed the bus, and it wasn't waiting. And now the NFL faces a choice. Do they try to suppress this movement, tighten control, push back, double down on policy? Or do they lean into it, adapt, modernize, start treating their talent like brands, not just bodies? Because Shedeur is a proof of concept. He's not an outlier. He's a preview. There's a whole new generation watching this play out. And they're not dreaming of just touchdowns and trophies. They're dreaming of equity, of controlling their likeness, of turning nil momentum into pro-level empires. This is the NIL era, and Shedeur Sanders is chapter 1. And let's not act like this is only about football. What he's doing is bigger than sports. It's about the shift in power we're seeing across industries, where creators, athletes, influencers, artists, all of them are taking the reins, where contracts are no longer just paychecks, but partnerships, where the person bringing the audience holds the leverage. Shedeur didn't just bring an audience, he brought a movement. He brought a challenge to every outdated playbook in the league. He brought a warning shot to every GM still living in 2005. And he brought a lesson to every young athlete out there wondering if they have to wait for permission to start building their future. You don't. You just have to be brave enough to own it. And Shedeur? He owned it with grace, with vision, and with ruthless precision. So let's not reduce this to headlines. Let's call it what it is. A full-scale brand takeover, led by a 21-year-old quarterback who understands the game on the field and off it better than most veterans ever will. And this isn't even peak Shedeur. This is rookie year. So buckle up. Shedeur didn't just break a record with a $50 million off-field deal. He cracked open a room and walked in with a blueprint for rewriting the rules. And now, everyone else is scrambling to retrofit playbooks that weren't built for this new energy. We've talked about prime equity. We've examined how Cleveland got left behind. The next act is about impact, about ripples, about what happens when a single player starts to shift culture rather than just play it, because we're already seeing the tremors. Rookie agents are quietly working Shedeur clauses into their proposals. Young athletes are asking not only what team should I pick, but what brand deals can I build right now? Media executives are seeing some kid on social who gets 10 times more engagement than the highlight reels the league is serving up, and they're wondering, why are we still broadcasting the same narrative? Owners and general managers are waking up in meetings, realizing their top draft pick might bring more media value and marketing weight than their starting quarterback from 5 years ago. That's not hyperbole. That's the new ecosystem forming in real time. Shedeur is becoming the template. Not just a success story, but the model, the one kid study, the one future rookies benchmark against. People look back and ask, where was a contract that treated a rookie like a CEO? And the answer will be at Shedeur's table. When he starts dropping behind-the-scenes content, creative ventures, side businesses, brand collaborations every week, while still training, still throwing, still winning, you'll see how deep this goes. We're not talking merch drops or sneaker collabs as afterthoughts. We're talking full brand ecosystems, media channels, licensing ventures, content pipelines, youth initiatives, equity stakes in tech startups. When the average NFL player is trying to secure a side deal, Shedeur's thinking about ownership stakes. And that's the shift. Athletes won't be content with endorsements. They'll demand partnerships. Not just gigs, but shares. Not just a face, but a voice. Not just brand exposure, but brand control. The teams that win in this next decade won't be the ones with plastic mascots and stadium deals. They'll be the ones who integrate with their players' identities. They'll invite collaboration. They'll offer branding workshops. They'll treat their athletes like co-investors, because the most powerful players will be those who build influence with the organization, not just for it. And that's exactly what Shedeur is doing. He's not waiting for the league to hand him platform. He's constructing it. And the league's reaction so far? Hesitation, retraction, closed doors, explanations about policy and tradition. Because many team staffs are still fighting the cultural wars of the 2000s. They haven't internally reorganized the play in this new era. So what's next? You'll see players in the next draft negotiating full image rights from day one. Not after their second contract, not after years of success. Straight up from rookie week. Expect joint ventures between NFL players and media networks, bypassing traditional coverage pipelines. Expect the first athlete-owned production studios launching high-profile docu-series, fashion lines, tech platforms, with built-in licensing deals. Expect youth sports organizations co-founded by players who want to control pipelines, not just endorse them. And if a team wants to sign Shedeur or a player like him, they won't just be buying QB talent. They'll be buying partnership access. They'll need to pitch their own brand alignment. They'll have to show how they'll amplify, not overshadow. Agents will grade teams on media support, brand matching, creative freedom. Shedeur is turning what used to feel like privilege, the right to be seen, the right to brand, the right to monetize, into a default expectation. That's the sea change. Amid all this, one thing stands out. No matter how many people say this is unprecedented, it won't stay unprecedented for long. The first rider always looks lonely, but once others jump on, the line holds. So Cleveland, they can choose one of two paths. They can try to retrofit, change their structure, embrace this new model, and plead their case to be part of his story. Or they can watch Shedeur's brand eclipse theirs, and then spend decades trying to chase a narrative they ignored. Because here's the cold truth. Shedeur didn't just sign a big deal. He wrote the opening act of the athlete as entrepreneur era. Teams, owners, media, they're reacting now. The question is, will they adapt or get left behind? Shedeur Sanders isn't playing chess. He's playing real estate mogul-level Monopoly. Except instead of waiting to pass go, he's already built hotels on every square and leased the railroad rights to Amazon. The genius of what Shedeur is doing isn't just the money, it's the timing. This deal didn't drop after he became a Pro Bowler. It didn't wait for a breakout season or a Super Bowl MVP. It landed before his NFL debut. That timing changes everything, because it flips the standard athlete trajectory on its head. The old model? Build slowly. Prove your worth. Then cash out later in your career if you're lucky enough to still be healthy. What Shedeur's done is say, why wait? I know my value now. And he proved it, not just by saying the words, but by closing deals most rookies couldn't even dream of pitching. He's not chasing approval. He's commanding attention. And whether you love it or hate it, you're watching. Even the skeptics are tuning in, refreshing their feeds, wondering what the next move will be. Because let's be real, this isn't just about sports anymore. It's about power, perception, and positioning. Let's zoom in on that Nike deal. Reported to be worth up to $250 million. It's not just an endorsement. It's a stake in brand direction. And guess what? He didn't walk into that room as a hopeful rookie begging for a deal. He walked in with leverage, with numbers, with proof of concept. $15 million in jersey sales. Before a single professional snap. That's the kind of market validation companies dream of. He walked in as a brand, not a pitchman. And Nike? They saw it. They know the game is changing. They didn't just get a quarterback. They got a movement. And what Shedeur has done, whether intentionally or just through sheer excellence, is force the NFL to confront a question it's avoided for years. What happens when the players have more influence than the teams? Because that's what this is. Let's not sugarcoat it. There's a power shift happening. Teams used to be the sun, and players revolved around them. Now, players are the orbit, the content, the engagement, the merchandise, the digital footprint. It's all flowing through individuals, not logos. And that makes the NFL uncomfortable. Because when Shedeur says no thanks to a team like Cleveland, when he walks away from the traditional power structure, it sends a message, and that message echoes, not just to fans, to future rookies, to other athletes, to the entire sports industry. You think college athletes aren't watching this? You think high school recruits aren't taking notes? Shedeur is blueprinting a world where your first contract isn't the start of your value. It's just one of many income streams. He's showing that with the right branding, right timing, and right mindset, you can negotiate like a mogul from day one. And while some folks are still trying to wrap their heads around that, Shedeur's already on to the next stage. He's launching his own production label, building youth-focused athletic camps, negotiating content rights for behind-the-scenes docs, and athlete-led storytelling platforms. Because why wait for ESPN to narrate your story when you can just own the studio? He's not following the narrative. He's publishing it. And here's where it gets even more surreal. Shedeur isn't just doing these things. He's making them look inevitable, as if this was always going to be the next stage of athlete evolution. In reality, it wasn't. Shedeur forced the timeline forward. He saw the influencer economy. He saw the nil boom. He saw the generational wealth gap in sports. And he said, I'm not waiting for permission. And that's not just savvy. That's generational strategy. It's what happens when you combine on-field talent with off-field clarity. When you're raised by a father who's not just a Hall of Famer, but a branding mastermind. When you understand that image is more than presentation, it's equity. Let's not forget the prime equity clause. That wasn't just paperwork. That was a chess move that gave him full control over his likeness, his partnerships, his direction. It gave him something few players have in year one. Freedom, and in a league that still treats rookie contracts like golden handcuffs. Shedeur just walked in with bolt cutters. He's not just betting on himself. He's banking on himself and collecting the dividends early. And you know what's wild? The NFL can't stop it. They can't regulate charisma. They can't limit business instincts. They can't flag a player for knowing how to negotiate ad revenue splits or licensing rights. So they either get on board or they get left behind. That's the crossroads they're standing at. Will they evolve? Will they restructure deals to give players more media autonomy? Will they adapt to the athlete as brand era? Or will they fight it? Clamp down harder? Try to control the uncontrollable? Because one thing's for sure, Shedeur is already 10 steps ahead. And while the league's still issuing memos and discussing media guidelines, he's closing deals, launching ventures, and continuing to build an empire brick by brick. He's proving that you don't have to choose between being a baller and a businessman. You can be both. In fact, in this era, you have to be both. Because the game isn't just on the field anymore. It's in the boardroom, on the timeline, in the trademark office, on the cap table. And Shedeur Sanders? He's already wearing every jersey. Now, here's the final thought. This isn't even about Cleveland anymore. They were just the latest to get snubbed. This is about a system being disrupted. This is about a player who understood the value of timing, branding, and leverage, and used it to blow past the standard playbook. This is about a new generation of athletes, watching it all unfold, asking, why not me next? And that's the scariest part for the old guard, because Shedeur didn't just change the rules. He handed out the instructions. And now, everybody's playing catch-up. So if you're here for the rise of the next wave, the athletes who build empires before their first touchdown, who own their stories, who change the narrative forever, then stay tuned. This is just the beginning. And the Shedeur Sanders era is not a fluke. It's a movement. Subscribe if you're ready for the next chapter.